Conduit Gem, Sands of Time, and Vampiric Shroud are the options for mid lane mages as starter items. I actually really like these starters. All of them are viable in certain ways and generally impact your gameplay. But all three of them have one big common problem: their upgrades. For all three starters, mid lane mages basically have only one viable option. Conduit becomes Gem of Focus, Sands goes into Pendulum of the Ages, and Vamp Shroud upgrades to Sacrificial Shroud. All of the alternatives not being bought for their own reasons. Starting off with Archmages Gem, the other upgrade for Conduit. The reason this isn't bought is actually because of one certain character. If you don't remember or you weren't playing in Season 8 when starter items were released, Archmage was actually seen as the better option for about a patch or two before it was nerfed into irrelevancy.
Okay, well I was gonna press it, right? Like
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, througha would do over half the enemy's health with full build. So this led to hard nerfs over 2 years ago, and the item has barely been touched since, even to the point where througha herself doesn't build the item anymore. Honestly, this item just needs a complete rework, because any buffs would just lead to througha abusing the item again, leading it to its eventual nerf. Hi-Res really need to create a starter item for burst mages like Scylla or Nox, the ones who want to kill you within one combo, because currently they don't really have an option, and a reworked Archmages could definitely fill that void. The next upgrade I'll talk about is Alternative Timeline, which is the other upgrade for Sands. There are a couple of reasons that this starter item doesn't get bought at all. Number one, it's a death passive. All death passives are bad because you only get to use the passive at 0 HP, which is something you're actively not trying to do. But if you don't die, the item's passive is completely useless. The second issue is the cooldown, so even if you do get a proc of the passive, it goes on cooldown for 6 minutes, which means your starter item, which in theory should be your best item, now doesn't have a passive and it's just a stat stick for quite a long time. The next issue is the power comparison. The item only gives 50 power compared to Pendulum, which gives regularly 130 power. So obviously a mid laner is going to build the item with nearly 3 times the amount of power when they have the option. The fourth issue being the respawn time. 1.5 seconds is too quick. If the timer was slower, it could lead to your team coming to help you, because currently it's so easy just to wait for the respawn and kill the mid again. The last issue being the percent health and mana you get when you do respawn. 25% is just too low. Late game, most of the enemy team can easily kill you with a couple of abilities. I think Timeline needs the least amount of change out of the 3 bad upgrades, but with a couple of tweaks, this could generally be a viable option. The first buff is to the cooldown, like reducing it to 4 minutes rather than 6 minutes, or by allowing the cooldown to be reduced by kills or assists, so the cooldown isn't ridiculously long. The next change is to solve the power problem. An idea is that every time the passive gets procced, you gain 40 power. This allows the item to potentially have similar power to Pendulum, but only if you die a couple of times. As stated before, increasing the respawn timer could be a solid buff to this item, doubling it to 3.5 seconds because no role in the game wants to stand still for that long in a team fight, because they could easily get collapsed on. The last buff is to simply increase their percentage health and mana to 50%, but to have a maximum health cap, so if they have over 3000 health, you still only get 25%. Hopefully this would keep the item away from tanks in the solo lane. The last upgrade is Bloodsoaked Shroud, which is the other upgrade from Vamps. This item's problem is unique because it literally is not a mid laner upgrade but a solo laner upgrade. This is because it gives a percentage of your health as a heal, which makes this item significantly better for tanks. This is a similar issue that Bumper's Hammer had last season, but even as a solo laner upgrade, I've never seen it built. It's such a weird upgrade because for it to be better than Vamps, you have to be a tanky magical solo laner who has very low cooldowns, which is basically just Cabrakan. The way they can change this upgrade so it's better on mid laners is to change the heal from a percentage of your health to just a flat amount. This is actually the same solution that fixed Bumper's Hammer. They changed it last season because all the tanks were abusing the item. Overall, there just needs to be some changes to mid lane starters for magicals because they've been stagnant for such a long time. Some buffs or reworks could really spice up the mid lane.